Say.
Yes, continue.
Okay. Then we talk about the qualities of Joshua, and we said he was a man of prayer. Joshua was in prayer. Then we also talk of the moral lesson. That is, we should exercise patience in God. We should have faith in God. Then we should be obedient to God.
Is that all that you learned? All right, you've done well. Let's call another person to briefly tell us what we learned last week. Peggy, can you kindly brief us what we studied last week about Joshua?
We learned about the characteristics that Joshua showed being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Characteristics as in how he behaved towards the people of God and some of the things that he showed God being a leader. He was a good strategist, a mediator, a prophet, a law receiver and giver.
Okay.
And a good administrator.
Okay, I have, what's the name? Some of you didn't join the class last week, so you are new here. I'm looking for one boy who was part of the class last week. Bai? Good. Can you briefly tell us how Joshua was appointed?
Moses knew that his time was due to die, so he prayed to God, asking him to choose a leader so that his people will not be without a leader. And God chose Joshua, son of Nun, and told him he should bring Joshua before Elijah and the congregation of Israel, and let Elijah place his hand on him and elect him as their new leader. And Moses to also give him half of his authority so that he could lead the people of Israel.
Excellent. 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 Okay, now I'm looking for another person who joined the class last week. Duval, Evarista, were you part of last week's class?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, Bright Elikem. Bright Elikem, were you part of last week's class? Bright, are you there? Okay, Sekle. Elsie.
Sir.
Were you part of last week's class?
Sir, please no.
No. Really?
Yes.
Sylvester.
Sir.
Mm-hmm. Were you part of last week's class?
Yes, sir.
Good. Can you please kindly brief us how Joshua was commissioned by God to lead the people of Israel to the land of Canaan? Briefly tell us what happened, how God commissioned Joshua.
Sir, I joined the class at Leadership Pro of Joshua. I didn't join from the beginning.
Oh, okay. 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 So who was part of last week's class so that I can ask some specific questions before we can continue? Don't hide yourselves, please. All right. Without wasting my time, let's move on with what you're about to study today. Today, we are moving from Joshua's leadership role to Deborah's leadership role. And you are still discussing leadership role. And today, our aspect is Deborah as a leader. We are going to use the Bible text, Judges chapter 4. Judges chapter 4. I hope all of you have the screen I'm sharing. Do you all have it? I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
Can you all see it?
Yes, yes, sir.
You can't see the screen I'm sharing, the notes.
No.
Sir, I can only see Sonrise Christian High School.
Okay, so read
I
what
can
you
only
see
see
there.
the subject, subject, topic, aspect, Bible text, and the instructor.
Good, so that is the screen, so I'm going to continue. Do you get it?
That's all I can see.
Okay, now what,
Sir,
it has changed, right? Let's move on. Can you see it has changed?
Yes.
That is the lesson notes. I just want you to know whether you can see what I'm sharing. That's the question I asked. Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, please.
Good, so let's move on.
Yes, please.
All right, let's have our overview. So in this lesson, we shall first discuss the call of Deborah. Secondly, we will trace the circumstances that led to the call of Deborah. Then we move on to examine the leadership qualities of Deborah. Then we will discuss how women are relevant in national development. Then we will lastly derive application virtues or moral lessons from the leadership of Joshua that can be of Deborah. It's a mistake here. Of Deborah, let me correct it before. Of Deborah that can be recommended for leaders today. All right, let's look at our objectives. By the end of the class, what should we achieve? What should we achieve? Our achievement. By the end of the class, you should be able to narrate the call of Deborah. All of you should be able to narrate the call of Deborah. 2, you should be able to identify at least 3 leadership qualities of Deborah. Also, identify the leadership role of Deborah in the history of the Israelites. Lastly, you should be able to identify roles women can play in our society. So this is our focus. This is what we are going to look at today. Now let's move on. Deborah as a leader. Today I'm going to choose my Bible reader, somebody who can read very well for me. Duval, I want you to do us that favor. Duval, read, take your Bible and read Judges chapter 4 for us. I hope you have your Bible with you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so open your Bible to Judges chapter 4. You can see Judges in the Old Testament. Can you find it?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So read Judges chapter 4, and I want all of you to pay attention to the story. Then we'll move on from there.
And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. when Edu was dead. And verse 2, and the Lord sold them into the land of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera,
Sisera, or Sisera.
Sisera,
Yeah.
okay, which dealt in Harozet of arose of the Gentiles. Verse 3.
Okay, continue.
Verse 3. And the children of Israel cried upon the Lord, for he had 900.
Okay, Sekle. Sekle, if you can help, if you can hear me, help Duval. Okay, if you have a Bible with you, help her.
Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for help, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and he oppressed the people of Israel cruelly for 20 years. Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidot, was judging Israel at that time. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the people of Israel came up to her for judgment. She and said to the Lord, the God of Israel, taking 10,000 from the people, Naphtali and the people of Zebulun, and I will draw out Sisera, the general of Jabin's army, to meet you by the river Kishon, with his chariots and his troops, and I'll give him into your hand. Barak said to her, if you go with me, I'll go, but if you will not go with me, I'll not go. And she said, I will surely go with you, nevertheless, the road on which you are going will not lead to your glory, for the Lord will tell Sisera unto the land of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak of Kadesh, and Barak called out Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and 10,000 men went up at his heels, and Deborah went up with him. Now Heber, the Kenites, and separated from the Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent as far away as the oak in Zananim, which is near Kadesh. When Sisera was told that Barak, the son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera called out all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the men who were with him from Harosheth.
You continue.
Harosheth to the river Kishon. And Deborah said to Barak, "Up, for this is the day in which the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Does not the Lord go out before you?" So Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. And the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army before Barak by the edge of the sword. And Sisera got down from the chariots and fled away on foot. And Barak paused the chariots. All the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not a man was left. But Sisera fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenites, for there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael came out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me. Do not be afraid." So he turned aside to her into the tent, and she covered him with a rag. And he said to her, "Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty." So she opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, stand at the opening of the tent, and if any man comes and asks you, is anyone here? Say no. But Joel, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand. Then she went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple until it went down into the ground. While he was lying fast asleep from weariness, so he died. And behold, as Barak was pursuing Sisera, Joel went out to meet him and said to him, come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. So he went in to her tent, and there lay Sisera dead, with the tent peg in his temple. So on that day, God subdued Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the people of Israel. And the hand of the people of Israel pressed harder and harder against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan.
Wow, that's excellent. That is excellent. Okay, how interesting is this story? Is it interesting? How interesting is the story? Yes, anyone can raise up their hand and talk. How interesting is this story to you? How interesting is the story to you? For you, as you listen to the Bible story, what was running through your mind? What were you thinking about? Yes, Adai, perfect. Adai, perfect. What is so interesting about this story? Yes, what's so interesting about the story?
Nothing.
Nothing is interesting.
Yes.
Really? Maybe because you don't have anything. You don't have anything to say. Sika?
So like.
Sika? Sika, can you hear me? Dennis. Dennis.
I said nothing. The story is boring.
The story is boring, really? Okay.
Yes.
Why is it boring? Why is the story boring?
I don't know, but I think the call of Moses is nicer than this one.
The call of Moses is nicer than this one. Okay, anyway, is it because we are talking about a lady?
Oh, no.
It's not because we're talking about a woman.
Okay, maybe.
Rosamond has raised her hand. Yes, Rosamond.
Say, I'm not answering the question. No.
Okay, what do you want to say?
Say, I want to say that maybe you have not explained the thing. That's why I'm not understanding.
Okay, good. But okay, good. But do you think I have to explain before you get understanding? No, from the Bible text we just read, I think all of you have one way or the other having some interest in what you are reading, what you just read. At least there should be an interest in what you just read. Anyway, let's waste my time. Now, we are still discussing the leadership role of some characters in the Bible. We discussed Joseph as a leader. Okay, so we are looking at Deborah as a leader. And I said now we are going to discuss a female who led the people of Israel during the time of Judges. Now, from Joseph, we studied Joseph's life because Joseph's story was very familiar with you people. So you were able to connect the dots from the things you've heard about Joseph. We also discussed about Moses as a leader, and you also have heard about Moses' leadership and some of the things Moses did in the Bible. So that one too, you were able to still connect the dots and get the understanding. We moved on to talk about Joshua. Not many of you have really learned something about Joshua, and so the interest was not so much there. But I believe last week class was really interesting and we learned a lot. This time around, we're going to talk about Deborah. Deborah too is not a leader or a Bible character that majority of you have heard about, or you even know something about a leadership role. So it seems you are like, who is this Deborah? And that is why I'm here to explain to you the background that led to the call of Deborah. Now, from the text we read, we realized that the Israelites sinned against God when they settled in the land of Canaan. Remember when God told them he's leading them to the land of Canaan. Before they reached the land of Canaan, God gave them laws. And the laws that God gave to them was to guide them and to help them live their lives to please God. Moreover, God asked them, God wanted them not to worship any other gods apart from him, which is actually the first commandment God gave to them. They shouldn't put any other God before him because he's a jealous God. Now, when the people of Israel entered Canaan, from the scriptures, you realize that they abandoned the worship of God and they went into different kinds of beliefs, worshiping all kinds of idols. So because of this, God got jealous and God left them. Yes, Rosamond.
Sir.
Yes.
I want to ask, by that time was Joshua there?
Joshua was dead by then.
Okay.
So okay, good question. When Joshua died, after Joshua's death as a prophet of the people of Israel, they didn't have prophets anymore by then, but they had what we call the judges. So when we read the Bible from the book of Judges, you hear people like Gideon, you hear names of like Samson and the rest. All these people were judges. They were people that God used to lead the people of Israel and to also rescue the people of Israel from the hands of their enemies. And one of these leaders in the Judges is Deborah, which we are discussing now. So the time Deborah became the leader of the people of Israel as a political leader and a religious leader, the people of Israel were being led by judges. And the last judge who led them was called Ehud. And Ehud died not so long. The Israelites went into the worship of all kinds of idols. And because of that, God got angry at them and gave them into the hands of their enemies. That is the people of Canaan. Meaning that the Canaanites that they drove away from the land of Canaan went and also built a nation and came back and attacked Israel. And when they came back, they were able to overcome Israel because Israel then had abandoned God and were worshiping all kinds of gods. And God had already warned the people of Israel that if they refuse to worship him and they worship other gods, he will deliver them into the hands of their enemies, which we can see this in the book of Deuteronomy chapter. We can see this in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 26 and 27, when God told them the things that if they do, he will bless them, and the things that they do, he will curse them. Good, so let's move on. Background to the call of Deborah. Background to the call of Deborah. Do you have the note there? Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. So
No,
let's move on.
yes, sir.
Let's move on. Background to the call of Deborah. Judges chapter 4. Now, the Israelites in the time of Joshua took a covenant. A covenant, in other words, they took an oath that they will not mix the worship of Yahweh with the worship of other gods. But Israel defected from worshiping God alone and instead served Baal and Ashtaroth, the gods of the Canaanites. Yahweh was displeased by this behavior and thus delivered Israel into the hands of their enemies, who oppressed them severely and plundered them. Whenever they went to war, they were defeated as God had planned. As a result of their suffering and punishment, the people prayed to God for deliverance from their oppressors. Yahweh was moved by the groaning of the oppressed Israelites and raised up judges who delivered them from their enemies. However, when the judges died, Israel went back to sin against God. Thus, the background to the call of Deborah followed a pattern of disobedience, punishment, prayer for forgiveness, and deliverance through one of the judges. So we are saying here that Israel had always disobeyed God. And God has told them if they disobey him, he will give them into the hands of their enemies. And that is what all of us want God to do for us. We want God to protect us, we want God to deliver us. But we fail to obey God. And disobedience to God is a whole curse on us. If we decide not to obey God and we go our own way and do our own thing, that is where challenges that come on us are unbearable. So we are saying that before Deborah was called, the people of Israel were led by judges. And these judges were the people who were able to enforce God's law on the people of Israel to obey him. And when the judges die, they go back again to worship idols. And when they go back to worship idols, God will also bring enemies against them. And when the enemies come against them, they are defeated. Then later on, they will pray for forgiveness of sins, and God will bring deliverance. Will bring somebody to come and deliver them. So you can see this in the story of Gideon and that of Samson. And it also happened that during the time of Deborah, the people of Israel had sinned against God, and they were under captivity by the Canaanites. And the Canaanites had their king called King Jabin. And King Jabin had an army commander called Sisera. Sisera was the army commander of the Israelites, who was a very strong army man. Very strong army man. And he was able to conquer Israel, and they oppressed Israel for 20 good years. They oppressed Israel for 20 good years. So for 20 good years, Israel was under captivity by the people of Canaan. Now, we are moving away from the background. So the background, Israel sinned against God. They didn't obey or follow the covenants they made with God. They mixed worship by worshiping Baal and Ashtoreth, that is the gods of the Canaanites. And they lived all kinds of promiscuous life and did all sorts of evil things in the sight of God. And this brought them the judgment of God. And the judgment of God was that the Canaanites oppressed them for 20 good years. So that is the background to the call of Deborah. So that was when God called Deborah to come in to be the deliverer of the people of Israel. Now let's move on to the call of Deborah. Let's move on to the call of Deborah. Now, it was after the death of Ehud that Israel sinned against God, who gave them up to the Canaanite king, Jabin, to oppress them for 20 years. When Israel cried for mercy, God raised Deborah, the wife of Lapidot, to come to their rescue. Deborah was a prophetess and a judge in Israel. Upon God's instructions, Deborah summoned Barak.
Sir, please, I can't hear you.
Your name, please. You can't hear me, so you can't even hear what I'm asking. Precious, I don't know what you are using. I don't know if you are using earpiece. Take off the earpiece. If you are using, yes. Maybe
I can hear you, Adjoa Precious. I can hear you.
Now you can hear me.
Sir, I wasn't the one complaining.
Who is the one complaining that she can't hear me?
Oh, sir, please, it's not me.
Then who is that? The person should raise up the hand. I can't even see the
person. It was Priscilla.
It was Priscilla who raised up the hand, and then she's saying that it's not the one who said it. All right, let's move on. I hope you are following.
Yes.
Okay. So We said, upon God's instruction, Deborah summoned Barak to gather 10,000 men from the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali at Mount Tabor against King Jabin and his army commander Sisera. Now, this is very important for you to note. When God called Deborah, Deborah was a wife to Lapidot, and she was also serving Israel as a prophetess and a judge. When God commanded him, God instructed her to summon Barak, who was also an army man, and asked him to gather 10,000 soldiers from the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali. Don't forget, the Israelites had 12 tribes, and God selected just two of the tribes to bring out 10,000 soldiers to fight against Jabin and his army commander. So that means not all the Israelite soldiers fought the Canaanites. Why do you think God did this? God doesn't need many soldiers to overcome the Canaanite soldiers. No, it's not. King Jabin and Sisera were able to overcome Israel not because they were stronger than the people of Israel. No, but rather it was God who allowed their enemies to overtake them. So now God wants to prove to the people of Israel that if you believe in me, I can use more people or few people to conquer the entire army of the Canaanites. So God just selected two of the tribes, Zebulun and Naphtali, which is a past question objective that has appeared for about 3 to 4 times in the past questions objective. The tribes that Barak selected the soldiers from, that is Zebulun and Naphtali. There's a past question that also asked the name of. So I mentioned that God didn't need many of the soldiers or all the soldiers of Israel to fight the people of Canaan. This time around, God wants to prove to the people of Israel that I am your God. If you obey me, these Canaanites you are seeing are small. I can just conquer them easily. Now, God has told Deborah to tell Barak to take 10,000 men from just 2 tribes. To Barak, 10,000 men to fight the Canaanites, they can't, because the number is too less compared to the soldiers of the Canaanites. So to Barak, it wouldn't be possible. At that moment, her motivation was very low. He didn't believe in himself that with God, they are able to overcome their enemies. So he was afraid. He was afraid. He was really, really afraid. So he told Deborah that, Deborah, frankly speaking, if you really want me to go with you, if you really want me to go to this battle, unless you, Deborah, accompany me. If you don't accompany me, I'm not going to the battlefield with you, with anybody. So God added that, Deborah added that God had promised to give victory to Barak, but Barak doubted. Barak, however, insisted that he would go to the battle if only Deborah went with him. Continuation. Deborah agreed, but added that the victory would go to a woman. Why do you think the victory should go to a woman? Why do you think Deborah said the victory would go to a woman? Hello? Deborah agreed to.
Hello.
Yes, Deborah agreed to go with Barak, and she added that because of that, the victory of the battle will be given to a woman. Why do you think Deborah said that?
Say, let me try.
Okay, try.
Say, he will kill the man, but it is the woman kill him at the like.
Okay, you've tried. You are trying to say that because Barak
He will kill it, but it is the woman who
is the woman who do what?
say it is the woman who come and pierce the this thing the say.
Anyway,
So I don't know how to explain.
You don't know how to express yourself anyway. Well, the reason why. Okay, yes, Gentua, said them. Yes, Gentua, talk. You can answer, yes.
Say.
Yes.
Please let me try you.
Yes, try. I like people who try.
Since Deborah has agreed to follow Barak to where he's going, it will like because of that a woman will be the heroine. Like the reason why Barak is going there.
Exactly. The reason why, let me add to what you and Rosemont said. The reason why Deborah said the victory will be given to a woman because Barak doubted. He doubted the ability of God. So if you've doubted God, then you go to the battle, all right. But the victory of killing the enemy, that's the main enemy of the Israelites, that's the crown. If you have you watched Bahubali before? Anyone here who has watched Bahubali before?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you remember Bahubali and
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember one time Bahubali and the brother fought their enemy? They were looking black. They painted their faces black. They fought. They had a battle.
Yes.
And the mother told them that the one who is able to bring their leader alive to her will be the one who will do what? Is the one going to be crowned as what? The king. Do you remember the story?
Yes.
Good. So you can see that. Good. So in a battle, the one who kills the leader of the enemy is the one who is given the crown of the glory, or the crown of the battle, or the person is being crowned as what? The one who won the battle for the country. Let's use football as an example. In a football match, let's say we play penalties, and it was 3-3, and the opponent, your opponent scored there 2, so we need 1 goal to win. And then Barrister, you went to play the penalty for Sonrise, and so after playing the penalty, you able to score. At that moment, everybody will come and carry you as what?
The winner.
The winner, because you are the one who led them to win. So at the end of the day, the one who wins the battle is the one who kills the battle at the end. Do you get the point? So Barak was aiming at Sisera to kill him during the war. So let's move on. Let's move on with the notes. When Sisera heard that Israel had gone up to Mount Tabor, he called up his men to fight Barak and Deborah, but the Canaanites were defeated. After losing his entire army, Sisera fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the Kenite, to seek refuge. Now the question is, who is this Jael, and who are the Kenites? The Kenites then had a strong relationship with the Canaanites, and it is believed that Moses had once married a woman from the people of Kenite. So the relative of the Kenites were also Israelites. Some of them were Israelites because Moses had one of his wives from Kenite. So when Sisera ran to Jael, he ran to Jael to seek for refuge. And Jael here is a woman, to seek for refuge from her. because then the Canaanite and the Kenite were one, like they had close relation. But the Jael is from the descendants of the woman that Moses, it's believed that Moses married from. She is a descendant of that tribe. So she chose to stand in or to fight for the people of Israel than to allow Sisera to go scot-free. So he managed to lure Sisera into her home. She read the story very well. She was able to convince Sisera to come into a home for refuge. So after she has given him hospitality, Sisera slept. So when he slept, she got up. When he slept, she got the opportunity to kill him by driving a tent peg into his throat with a hammer, and he ended Sisera. Later, she presented Sisera's body to Barak, who was pursuing him. At that time, Barak was also chasing after Jabin.
Yes.
The prophecy that a woman would take the glory of the battle, the prophecy that a woman would take the glory of the battle, because Barak doubted was fulfilled. Sorry. Jabin, the king of Canaan, was also killed, and the Israelites became free again and lived peacefully. This was in accordance with the principle of the Deuteronomy that obedience to God leads to peace and prosperity, whereas disobedience leads to pain, suffering, and defeat. Any question? Any question? Any question? Okay, good. Then note this important point, really, really important point. Now, who Deborah was, what Deborah, how the role Deborah was serving in Israel before she was called to lead the people of Israel. Savannah, yes.
My question is, did Deborah give the man something to drink or eat, and then he felt asleep deeper like that, or he just felt asleep?
No,
because nobody can sleep, and somebody will come and put a nail on the truth.
He asked for water.
He asked for water. Yes, I think I said it there after giving him hospitality. So it's just that I didn't put it there. That hospitality means she gave him a place to sleep, and he requested for water. After she gave him the water, she also gave him milk to drink. She didn't put anything in the milk. No. If that's what you think, no. She didn't put anything in the milk. It's just that he was from the battle, and he's tired. He's tired. So immediately he got there, he felt asleep. We can also deduce from the point that probably God caused that deep sleep on him so that Jael will have the confidence to do what? Kill him. Do you get the point?
Yes.
Good. So I was mentioning some of the important things I want you people to note. One, who Deborah is. We've now learned that Deborah was a prophetess and a judge. We also know her background as a married woman who was married to Lapidot. We've also learned that the background of the Israelites was that they were disobedient, and their disobedience led God to bring them what? Pain, suffering, and defeat. Anytime they go to war, they lose the battle. And through that, the people of Canaan overpowered the people of Israel, and they subdued them into captivity for 20 good years. Very important, 20 good years. Now, when it happened that The Israelites, and happened that the Israelites were now, when it happened that they regretted from their sins, they prayed to God for deliverance, as they always do. So when they prayed for deliverance, God sent Deborah to lead the people of Israel to fight the Canaanites. And per God's instruction, God instructed Deborah to select Barak, which is another thing you should note. Barak was the one who led the people of Israel to fight the Canaanites. And don't forget, God also was specific to the number of soldiers he wanted to fight for. He wanted them to fight for Israel. He said 10,000 soldiers. It is also a past question objectives. He also mentioned that he should select the soldiers from only 2 tribes, that is Zebulun and Naphtali, 2 tribes that he should select the troops from. So 10,000 men were selected from these 2 tribes. It's also a past question. One past question also occurred about twice or thrice about the tribes Barak selected the soldiers from. Do you get it? And the tribes were Zebulun and Naphtali, don't forget. Now, it is also a past question that has also appeared about 2-3 times about who Jael is. And Jael was the one who killed Sisera. Jael was the one who killed Sisera. And how did it happen? What happened? How did she kill Sisera? First gave him hospitality, and when Sisera fell asleep, she took a tent peg, drove it through his throat with a hammer and killed him flat. Yes, Dramado Bridget, your question.
Sir, please, was it his throat or the side of his head?
The temple, that is his throat. That is the head. Anyway, from your head to your neck side, we call it temple. Okay. So he killed him, drove. If you read some other Bible, they say that head. Also the throat.
Yes.
Yes, so don't worry, the same area.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So the last point is very important to note. We said what? This was in accordance with the principle of Deuteronomy. And I think I've said this in your class before. Yes, said them.
Sir, please, what's a tent peg?
Okay, have you watched any movie that the soldiers were in the forest or where snow? I don't know how to explain. Do you know okay, today we have tent. Okay, we have tent. Let's say if you go to wedding, you have tent. But today they don't build a tent like those days. You see the poles that's down on the ground. The poles, yes. Our normal tent we have today, the poles are standing. Good. In the olden days, they build their tents down. The tent is down. It's like there's no any what do you call it? The whole to the top. That's the top of the shade of the tent is on the floor. So they raise the 4 corners of the tent with a peg, and it is a wooden object that is very sharp. They've sharpened it like a pencil. How you sharpen a pencil? It's very strong too and long. And so they pin. Okay. So to wrap up, we were able to look at Deborah as a leader, how Deborah came into the scene to rescue the people of Israel by encouraging and instructing Barak to summon the troops to fight against the Canaanites. We said that the battle happened at Mount Tabor, where Israel summoned the 2 tribes of Israel, Zebulun and Naphtali, 10,000 soldiers from there to fight the people of Canaan. And the person who killed Sisera was Jael. Jael was the one who killed him with a tent peg. Somebody asked what a tent peg is, and I was trying to explain what a tent peg is. It is very sharp object that is used to hold the tent in the ground. Anyway, let's look at the leadership role of Deborah. What are the roles the roles that Deborah played in the history of the Israelites. One, she played the role as a prophetess. She played the role as a prophetess. Two, she played the role as a judge. Deborah served as a judge. Three, she was a liberator. She liberated the people of Israel from slavery. She was the only female judge of Israel and the leader of the nation. Lastly, but not the least, she was responsible for leading Israel in battle against the Canaanites. I'll put this notes on the Google Classroom so that all of you can have access to it. So those of you who are writing the notes, that is very good. You are putting down the salient points. That is very excellent. Some of you, I don't see you with notebooks, nothing. No, you're not writing anything. You're just there. Those of you who are taking note, that is good. But I would definitely put this note and last week's notes also on Google Classroom so that you can all have access to the documents. Now, to wrap up, let's look at the leadership qualities of Deborah. Yes, who is that? Mama, raise up your hand.
Sir.
Yes, my dear.
Please, can we write it in our notes?
Yes, you can write it in your notes.
Okay.
You can write it in your notes. So let's look at the leadership qualities of Deborah. The leadership qualities of Deborah. Deborah was very brave in taking decisions. 2, she believed in herself. 3, she performed her tasks promptly. She obeyed God's instructions. Deborah was a team player. Lastly, Deborah was a great mediator, advisor, and a counselor. The next thing you should also know, ways women can contribute to national development. How can women contribute to national development? You know, in our environment as Africans, women are most of the time sidelined. Whenever crucial decisions are to be taken, women are seen not to have the competency or the ability to be able to do certain things. But that is very archaic. That is very old ideology, which today we must change that. Now, in the contribution in the national development, women today are contributing heavily in the national development. And we are going to look at ways women can contribute to national development. Let's wrap up very quick one. One, they are involved in social and religious activities. Today, women are involved in so many social activities and religious activities that makes women very relevant in our society today, as well as far as national development is concerned. 2, women are into politics, and some serve in governments as MPs, presidents, assemblywomen, etc. When you go to some other countries, women are presidents. Over here in Ghana, some have participated in the election as party candidates. For instance, this woman, Ikadonko, she has stood for the president as a president before. For almost 8 years now, she has stood as a president before. And we have the wife of our former President Rawlings. The wife also participated in the presidential election last election. So we can see that most of the women today are in government and into politics. Today we have a lot of women who are MPs. We have a lot of women who are assemblymen women. And in your area, I don't know the MP. There definitely some of you, the area you are staying, the MP there is a woman, and that shows that women are now contributing to national development. 3, women contribute to economic development as farmers and etc. Today, when you go to most of the village, women are into farming, and they are helping produce food to feed the country, and even some are into export of their produce to other countries. Now, they can also serve in various professions like teaching, medicine, banking, law, etc. Women, today they are involved in rural and urban development. Women are participating massively in rural urban development. Also, women, when they become wives, they are involved in keeping the family together and bringing up the children. All of you, those of you who are living with your mom, your parents, your mom she's the one who always keeps the family together. She makes sure that the home is so the home is comfortable, you are all fine, and most of the time, the women are with the children, training them, raising them up to become responsible citizens, and that is very good aspect of women that can contribute to national development. Lastly, there are some women who are into soccer and other entertainment. When it comes to the music entertainment, we have women like late Ebony. We have women like what's the name? The Ebony's replacement. Who replaced her? I've forgotten the name. The lady.
Wendy
Shay. Good. You guys definitely you know the names. I've forgotten the name. And we have women like Akuse Japan. We have women like let's mention their names who are into entertainment. Okay, into music entertainment, even the film actors and actresses.
Chakia, Izzy, and Melo, Adina, Ebony.
Good. It's okay. Now, the last thing we are going to look at is the moral application virtues or the moral lessons. Okay, one. Let's pick one so that we wrap up. Our time is up. Now, application virtue one we can take from the lesson is that God can accomplish great things through people who are willing to be led by Him. Deborah was one of them. Barak was one of them. There were people who availed themselves for God to use them to accomplish great missions. Now, wise leaders surround themselves with the right people. If you're a wise leader, you should surround yourself with what? The right people. 3, be concerned about people, not just success. Yes, everybody is desiring to succeed today, but today people want to become successful at the expense of people, and that is wrong. As you are endeavoring to become a successful person, always be concerned about the people's problem and their situations. Help them solve their problems, help them come out of their mess, and other things that you can do to support people as you are achieving success. Now, it is our responsibility to encourage people to follow God. That is very important. Deborah was the one who encouraged the Israelites to follow God's direction. The next one, exercise faith in God at all times. It is very important that we exercise faith in God at all times. The last one that we can derive from the lesson we learned today is that obedience to God leads to peace and prosperity, whereas disobedience leads to pain, suffering, and defeat. So today, this is what I have for you, and I believe you are. And I believe you have followed through. Anyway, any questions so that we wrap up? Any question? Okay, Jen, I said pick one.
Okay, so my question is.
yourself now.
One of the moral
yes, one of the moral lessons.
Someone is making it.
Who is that? Who is giving us the feedback? I say, meet yourselves.
Can we say it as doubt God?
Can we say that word?
A moral lesson.
Can we say that word?
Should not doubt God.
Exactly. We should not
We
doubt
should
God.
not doubt God.
Exactly. That is excellent. That is excellent. That is excellent. Okay. So from the direction from the school, they are saying that every last week in every month will be used for exercise. So be expecting exercise God willing next week, so that you guys will present it for me. Okay. I placed homework on the Google Classroom. About 6 people, only 6 people answered it, and I've marked and sent them the reply, and they have also given me feedback, and that is very good. So I'll put the notes on the Google Classroom. I want all of you to go there and take notes from there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I wish you all the best today. Have a great day, and God bless you all. We end the class.
Amen.
Yeah, let someone pray
to you.
Sir.
Okay.
Sir,
who will pray for us? Someone should pray for us.
Charlotte.
Charlotte is
not here.
Okay, Teresa should pray for us. Teresa, pray for us.
Father Lord, we thank you for letting us have a wonderful class that ended successfully. I hope we are able to understand, give us the wisdom and knowledge to be able to remember and a retentive memory so that we can prosper in life. And we thank you. We thank you for the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Have a nice day, all of you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.